my dear brothers? Welcome back to the Dear Brother Podcast, my guys. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I got a great interview for you today with my guy, Ari Sirat. He is an expert, a good brother that leads and makes brothers understand and get an understanding of ADHD. I thought this was a great interview to have. I've dealt with ADHD myself. A lot comes with it, not just what people think, but just with the inner battle. You know, some of us are scared to say that we even deal with it. It's a lot that we go through, bro. So I was looking forward to having this interview. He is right backstage right now. I'm going to bring him up. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, become part of the Dear Brother podcast community where grown men grow even more. And this podcast today is going to help us really, really grow. I'm so honored to have my guy, Ari Sirat, with us today. Ari, what's up, my guy?
Doing good, Christian. Doing good. Thank God. Thank you for having me.
I'm glad you're here. And we got to, Ari has a schedule. We got to get him on. We're going to have a full podcast and get him out of here. Ari is in Israel right now, right? Ari, you're in Israel right now.
That's right.
And so here I am in Philly at 2:15 or 2:35, and he's in Israel. It's 8:35. But I'm so glad that day and nighttime I'm able to connect with my brother, and he's going to share some wisdom with us today. Ari, let me ask you this, my brother. What brought on the passion of leading and guiding men through this journey, this ADHD journey? What drew you there?
So I was diagnosed with ADHD in 1990. Sorry, like in 1994, right?
Okay.
When I was 4 years old. In that time, in the early 90s, there was not a lot of information about ADHD. I know that now because when I look back on all the psychiatrists and the psychologists who try to tell me what's going on with me or tell my parents what's going on with me, they really put me through a whirlwind, man. They put me on prescription medication when I was 4. That's a crazy story within itself. When I was 9 years old, they thought I had bipolar because I would have tantrums. You know, now we understand that anger can be a symptom of ADHD. But the doctors thought that because I was having tantrums, it must be that I have more than just ADHD, that I must also have bipolar. So from 4 to 9, I was on ADHD medication. And then from 9 to 18, I was on ADHD medication and bipolar medication. And then in my early 20s, I found out that I was actually misdiagnosed with bipolar.
So all these years, here you are being misunderstood, number one. Let me pause there. What did that do to you psychologically and emotionally, even socially, carrying around this misdiagnosis? As a kid, you know, people act like kids don't understand what's going on, but I know you had to have an understanding. What was it like to carry that misunderstanding that people had and that the things people forced on you? What did that do to you?
Unfortunately, it shapes your adulthood, man. You know, I wish I could say something better about it,
No.
but unless you are aware of it and you start making, like actual moves to rewire the way that you think about yourself, it's very common for men specifically who struggle with ADHD to really feel really negative about themselves because they're going to, from an early age, they're going to be hearing a lot of criticism about themselves, being told that they're not good enough, or they don't move fast enough, or they don't pay attention. I can't tell you how many times I've had people that were supposed to be role models in my life, teachers, uh, professionals who are supposed to help bring me up, literally tell me things like, "How are you ever going to get married? You're too slow. You can never do that." You know, and that sticks with you. It's like you would think that people would know better, right? That is like what you learn. You learn before you even become a father, never to tell your kids that they're stupid, right? God forbid, because they will believe that, right? It's the same thing when you're working with kids, right? Why would you say something negative about that person?
Right.
Because what you're doing is you're telling this person at a young age you're slow, and they're
Mm,
going to think that they're slow because of it.
yeah. 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 Let me ask you this. Well, let's go back. Let's go way back for a second.
Okay.
For the audience sake, Ari, what exactly is ADHD?
So ADHD stands for attention deficit hyperactive disorder, right? I don't like disorder. I don't like that, but that's what it stands for, right? And really what it is that your executive function, right? Some people will call it executive dysfunctioning, but basically the way that your brain works
Yeah.
very different than someone who is neurotypical, someone who doesn't have ADHD, or someone who is neurodivergent, whether it's ADHD or you have autism, you're on the spectrum, your
Right.
brain works differently. So, for example, right, if you're neurotypical, meaning you're not on the spectrum, you don't have ADHD, you're just your brain just works like a normal dude, right?
Hmm.
It's easy for you to brush your teeth in the morning. It's easy for you to drink water while you're working. These are just like common things, right? It's like, of course, you brush your teeth every morning, or of course, you could drink water or work on the computer. But these
Right.
are like simple things, simple tasks that men with ADHD really, really struggle with. And I'll tell you why.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be different for each person, but a lot of men, right, the way that they complete task is based on the urgency of that task. When they ask themselves, oh, if I don't brush my teeth today, are all my teeth going to fall out? If the answer is no, my teeth are not going to fall out, they'll be like, oh, I can skip a day, or maybe I can skip another day. But if they went to the dentist and the dentist said, yo, if you don't brush your teeth every day, your teeth are going to fall out, oh my goodness, this guy's going to be like, you know,
Right.
he's like, my teeth are going to fall out. I have to do it.
Right.
That's how the brain works, how the ADHD brain works, based on urgency. But that's just one thing. That's one executive function.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
11 of them.
Hmm.
Emotional regulation, attention to detail, being able to focus, procrastination, organization, time management, your working memory. There's so many, right?
Yeah.
And your brain is wired a bit differently, and because it's wired differently, it tackles these things in a way that may come off like you're lazy, may come
Mm.
off like you just don't want to do anything, but that's not the case at all. That's not the case at all.
And is because of the ignorance of some people, willful ignorance or not, that usually how men get misdiagnosed, because it's like, oh, he's just lazy, and then they look no further than that. Is that why a lot of kids get misdiagnosed, because the judgment is just passed before any other questions are asked?
I would say, look, that could be a possibility, but I would say that could be the reason why parents don't want to diagnose their kids. Nothing's wrong with my kid, he's just lazy.
Mm,
I actually spoke with a mother, right, who reached out to me because she had some questions about her son.
okay.
And she knew she's a special ed teacher, and she just had a feeling that her son had ADHD. And
Mm,
she got him diagnosed, and she did not tell her husband
mm,
because her husband was against getting him diagnosed and thought that nothing's wrong with my kid. He just, nothing's wrong with him. He's just lazy, or he just doesn't listen, you know?
mm.
Um, yeah, I would say my case was very much like that. I don't think they had enough information in the 90s. Today, if someone made that mistake,
Yeah.
that would be crazy.
Right.
That would be crazy.
Right.
There's so
Right.
much information out there right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's go back into your story. You went from like, so what was it like as you got older? Like, so you got misdiagnosed as a kid.
Mhm.
Let me ask you this first. At what point did you get I don't know if this is the right term, rightfully diagnosed, or was it a turning point where it was like, wait a minute, this is wrong and we need to correct this? What, and if that happened, what age were you about when that started happening?
I was diagnosed for ADHD when I was 4. There was no second diagnosis or anything. This and the symptoms change over time.
Okay.
So like uh toddlers with ADHD, their
Mhm.
symptoms are going to be different than adolescents with ADHD. The symptoms are going to be different than adults with ADHD. And also, the symptoms the men struggle with are going to be different than what women struggle with. There's
Okay.
going to be a lot of common similarities, but there's also going
Yeah.
to be different.
So when did you get to the point where you realize, okay, this is wrong. This is a wrong diagnosis. Then when did the turn come when you were able to say, okay, it's something else, not just what I was diagnosed with and the medicines they were giving me?
So it was in my late 20s.
Wow, Aries, all those years?
Late 20s, all those years. I was on medication my entire life, and no one ever told me you do this because you have ADHD.
Ah,
Never, man. Never. And that's unacceptable.
yeah,
That's unacceptable.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So as a teenager, let's go on those teenage years, as a young man, what kind of things were you going through, say in those 10, 11, 12th grade years? What kind of things were you going through during that time carrying this wrong diagnosis? How was it in your social group as a student? How was it with your family? Like, what kind of things were you going through as a young man?
So, again, I didn't know that I was misdiagnosed until
Right.
much later
20.
in life,
Right,
right?
right.
But my parents didn't know how to deal with me, man. They tried. They tried, and I give them a lot of credit. They really tried.
Hmm.
But because they didn't know how to deal with me, I grew up in rehabilitation centers, in a few, from age 12 until almost my 17th birthday. And
So wait a minute.
yeah,
Rehab center. Were you then away from your family, period?
yeah.
What so
I
what
didn't live at
what were to
home
be
from age 12.
all right, wow, dude.
Yeah.
So what were the behaviors like that had to happen? Or maybe it shouldn't have happened, but what were the behaviors that you were going through that drove that type of separation?
I didn't know how to communicate when I would get upset. I didn't know how to regulate my emotions, right?
Okay.
And that is what causes the tantrums. Back then, they thought it was bipolar, right?
Right.
But I didn't know how to regulate my emotions. So that would turn into physical violence, screaming, throwing things, breaking things. And I was never taught how to deal with this when it would come up. My parents would just give me my nighttime medication, and I would just pass out, and that's how we dealt with that. I was never given skills on how to deal with it. Again, I my father really tried, and I
Yeah.
know it might not sound so bad, but it was really bad.
Yeah.
Like, no one's really equipped to know how to deal with that. And
Right.
and again, I don't think we had enough information when I was growing up to how to deal with it.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
also because I had to go through that. I take this very seriously. I don't want anyone to ever feel like they're misunderstood and they have to go through this alone. So this is something I take very seriously, very
Yeah.
seriously. Everyone that I work with, it's in my mind, it's do or die. Like
Yeah.
we gotta make a real change.
Let's move into your 20s now, where you found out all these things. What was that like when you come to this revelation of, okay, I've been pilled, I've been misdiagnosed, like when you came to this truth that, oh, this has all been wrong. What was that like for you? Was it like coming out of a fog? Was it like a bright revelation? Was it hopeful? Was it sad? what were your feelings as you come into the truth of this matter, especially being misdiagnosed since 4, being separated from your family at 12? That's a lot of trauma along with, what you were going through. What was that coming out like for you?
It hurt, it hurt. There was a part of me that felt like I was lied to, you
Hmm.
know. Um, a lot of times we put ourselves in situations where you go to a doctor and they say, take this because you have this, and you just do it, you know? And that was me, you know? Everyone was telling me, take this, do this. And I did it
Hmm.
without asking why, just trusting that everyone has the best intention for me. But
Hmm.
I'm the one who, for what is it, 9 years, took bipolar medication for someone who doesn't have bipolar. Realize how nuts that is, you know?
Insane.
And I'm talking about in crazy amounts.
Hmm.
Like, I was once on 1,000 milligrams of something called Silicryl. I was on
Hmm.
1,500 milligrams of something called Geodone, you know? So, that takes us to a whole nother topic, like, of, I think I get it from my father too. Like, I have a very big trust issue when it comes to authority, like
Hmm.
medical authority. And, like if I go to a hospital or they're like, oh, you need to do this,
Yeah.
I'm very, very skeptical.
Understandable. Understandable. That as a grown man, were there was it because you talked about the medicine and the amount, was there some type of like detox your body went through, your mind? Was there a detox that you went through? Because that's a lot of medicine to put in someone, especially someone who doesn't need that medicine, and it had to have changed you. um what did you go through, like some type of physical, mental, emotional detox once you came to the revelation that this stuff wasn't for you?
When I was off the medication, the people who knew me the best told me that it looked like I was, if I'm remembering correctly, their words, right? When I was on the medication, it looked like I was chained, and now you look free. The medicine can be a great tool, right? It could be, you know, but again, the way I look at it is at what cost, you know? It takes you over, and now you rely on this thing, right? You rely on this man-made pill
Hmm.
to help you with your ADHD, with help you getting things done and being more focused. But at what cost? Because it completely takes you over. It completely takes you over. And to this day, I have like liver issues. I have liver issues. And I used to be a nightclub promoter, so I used to drink heavily. That's
Hmm.
another conversation, right? Before I was religious, I was a nightclub promoter. So the combination of drinking heavily and also being on medication
Hmm.
at starting at age 4, the combination of those two things, my body's very, very sensitive.
Hmm.
I get side pain sometimes,
Yeah.
and I know it's connected to the meds, not
Yeah.
just the med, but definitely has a big part to play. Definitely.
Of course. And you already said emotionally it drove you to be in a mistrustful place, not accepting authority and all that. When did your I mean, now you're helping to heal men in this situation. When did your healing, can you put your finger on when your healing happened for you?
I would say it started when I came to Israel. I came to
Mm,
Israel when I was 25. I was
okay.
having a quarter life crisis. I was I was a nightclub promoter, like I just said, a few
Mhm.
minutes ago. I was a nightclub
Mhm.
promoter, and not going to go so deep into that story, but I started
Mhm.
second guessing everything in my life, and I was offered a free flight to Israel. I
Mhm.
took it, and then I started I looked at that as a second chance. And a lot of people we don't a lot of people don't get second chances, and I looked
Yeah.
at that as a second chance. Um, and I completely reinvented myself.
Mhm.
And believe it or not, I would say real change, like like what would you say, like the the mashed potatoes, like like the
Yeah. Yeah.
real, like in your face change
Mhm.
was when I got married at 30,
Okay.
right? Because, and I'll tell you why.
Mhm.
And no one, I don't think anyone talks about this.
Mhm.
I don't think a lot of people talk about what I'm about to say.
Okay.
In marriage, you and your wife, without knowing it, will bring up like stuff will be like naturally just brought up. Things that you thought that you worked on,
Mhm.
newsflash, you didn't work on it.
It's a fact.
In my first couple of years of marriage, there's
Mhm.
sometimes that I got so mad that I saw that little kid.
Mhm.
I saw myself in rehab. Like all that trauma just came up.
Yeah.
It was terrifying.
Yeah.
It was like it wasn't pretty, it was
Mhm.
scary,
Mhm.
you know. But through all this work in my marriage, that like had me come back to like working on myself and taking care of
Yeah.
that kid who was neglected, that inner
Mhm.
kid, that inner
Yeah.
child. That was when it started to like be more in my face. Like
Yeah.
now more than ever know who you are and what you deal with. You
Wow.
know.
That man, that is the fact, man. That the great is the mystery of marriage, two becoming one. That does. I mean, nothing, no relationship, no boyfriend, no girlfriend stuff. Marriage, the mystery of marriage. You're right, man. It is like building a house. You got to dig down, and you find some stuff when you dig down, because you never dig down like that with anybody
Right.
else. It's like this surface level of love stuff, but
And
digging down,
also,
you
you could walk
do
away.
right.
Like someone bothers you, you could just go. You could just go away.
Exactly.
But when you're like in closed doors and the
Yes.
triggers are being triggered and you can't escape,
Yeah.
what are you gonna do?
Right.
And
And you
if you're
can't
not
blame the other
prepared,
person because it's your triggers. Right.
right,
Right. Because it's easy to say this is your fault. But it's like,
right,
no, this is from 2 and 4 and 5 years old, 14, 15, 16 years.
right,
You're right, man. Because I mean, you're taking two lives, two complete separate lives on two complete separate channels, and you're doing this, and then ultimately trying to do this. And that squeeze will squeeze you the stuff out, not the love bugs and the butterflies, but it will dig that stuff up, man. That you, like you said, either you suppressed or thought never, some stuff you never thought it was in there. You're
right.
right. But the stick to itiveness of it is allows you to see that healing. So that is so beautiful, man. That marriage through it all allowed you to see some things and then dissect some things. So in that begin to heal you. That's
I would have
amazing.
not been able, like straight up, I would have not been able to be where I am and make the progress that I've made in my life if it
Yeah.
wasn't through marriage. And I mean like the like not the, like you said, like not like the pretty, like
Hmm. Hmm.
but like the work,
Yeah.
right? People don't
Yeah.
talk about the work you got to put
Yeah.
in,
Yeah. Yeah.
if it
Yeah.
wasn't for the work, you know it I wouldn't be here, I
Yeah.
wouldn't I wouldn't be coaching. I wouldn't
Right.
s- I wouldn't believe and see the need for me to do it,
Yeah.
right? Only through reliving my childhood, reliving these traumas,
Yeah.
was I able to really see this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Mm.
And
Yep.
through that, and this is I want everyone to really understand this. Through coaching, it helps myself. It helps me heal.
Yeah.
It does.
Yes.
It's a
Yes.
healing tool for me as well.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely,
So,
man.
yeah.
That's my same drive behind the Dear Brother podcast. Like I didn't start this thing for likes or, whatever. I started because I've been through so many things as a man, because starting so early as a teacher, 14, and it was never about me. It was about people getting what they needed from me. And I never knew
Right.
myself as a man. And so this podcast, same way you're coaching, this was birthed out of, I got to help somebody, bro,
Right.
because, you know, this is what men go through. And so many things I had to hide or suppress because of the expectations of me. I started this podcast, and every podcast I drop or every coaching session I do, same thing. I find myself getting healed. It's like the cycle of victory, man. Seeing
Right.
somebody else get free continues to free you, man. I'm so thankful for your work, man. So very thankful for your work. Are you a dad? You got
I
kids?
am. I do.
So I know
I
you're
do.
super duper protective about your kids' emotional and mental health and clarity and all that stuff. You gotta. I know you're
Yeah.
like, not that any
My
parent
little my
isn't, but
little
from what you
girl,
went through, yeah.
I see myself in my daughter,
Okay.
and in the sense of I feel like my daughter is very misunderstood, and she is the sweetest. She's the sweetest. She's so sweet,
Mm,
dude. She's
mm,
so sweet, and I see her so clearly,
yeah.
right? But some people don't, and it makes me very like daddy mode, Like I get very like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yes.
because how I'm very protective over her, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But again, my kids are very young. I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old.
Okay. Okay. But even them being that young, you were that young and started suffering that young. So I know,
Yeah.
that's, and really that's where our
According to my
development years
mother,
are.
my daughter is much better than me, so that's good.
Well, it's beautiful that she has such a perceptive dad who has a story of this that knows to be right on top of it. Because imagine if it was the '90s again, or imagine if you were just as unaware as your parents were. So it's so
Right.
beautiful that you have that, man. Um, tell me more about your coaching, man. What's your work with men, and tell me a little bit about that. I know our time is coming short, but tell me about what you're doing with men. How people can get in touch with you that need it. Who should be getting in touch with you? Tell me more about that.
So I work with men, only men.
Hmm.
Uh, it's a personal decision, right?
Hmm.
And when I'm working with a man who has ADHD, right, or a man who is neurodivergent, like I have one client who's not ADHD, but he has ADD, you know, ADD, and he's autistic. But basically, through coaching, it's split up into three different areas. Area one, we lose focus of who we are. We're drowning ourselves in all these negative beliefs that people have instilled in our mind, to the point that now that's what we tell ourselves when we get
Hmm.
upset,
Yep.
and that's what we believe.
Yeah.
It's crazy, like people are telling themselves, I'm this and I'm that, and like you're literally reinforcing that statement every time you
Yep.
say it. You're killing yourself, God forbid.
Yep.
You
Yep.
know, people don't get it, but I try to bring the awareness to help them really understand. Like you have to understand the power of your words. You're planting seeds, and
Mm.
what you say will grow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you got to be very, very careful with your words,
Right.
right? For yourself. Like know your worth. And it's
Yeah.
look, none of this is instant. instantly, right? Like this takes
Hmm.
real time. For how
Yeah.
long has a person been talking negative about himself? It is a journey, it's a process, right?
Yeah.
So that's one aspect of the coaching, and the other two aspects is learning real practical skills and creating real systems to live healthy, efficient, and to feel confident with this thing called ADHD, and stop
Mm.
looking at it as like, oh, it's holding me back, but instead look at it as like it helps me be the amazing person who I
Mm.
am. It's really a superpower. It makes me a warrior. It
Yeah.
makes me
Yeah.
stand out, you know, in a
Yeah.
way that I can separate myself from other people with my creativity and my love for people, you know, and to be able to focus on those good points instead of focusing on the negative points.
Yeah.
You know, focus on those
Yeah.
good, see the
Hmm.
good, focus your, like, train your mind to see the good, and then you
Hmm.
will see good, you know?
Yeah. Wow.
So I really believe that. I really believe that, and I try to instill that awareness in every single warrior that I work with. And I call them warriors because that's actually what they're doing, no?
Yeah.
They are
Yes.
fighting for their life. They are
Mm.
warriors. So
Yeah. And they're discovering that discovery process. It's like this is us, and then all our life stuff has been on top of us. Either people put it there or we put it there. Next thing you know, it's this much stuff on top of you, and it's like guys like you know, begin to just until somebody can say, "Oh, that's me right there," and I'm all right, and I'm
right.
not what everybody else said, and then not only you see the beautiful parts of you, you also see the stuff that you need to work on. But it's you. It's not what everybody else is saying and doing. Share your information. I'm gonna put it on in the description when I upload. But share your information, man. Share like how people can get in touch and all that.
Yeah, the best two ways to get in touch with me is either through email or Facebook. If you type in Ari Sarap on Facebook, I'm the only one with a kippa and a beard that pops up. You can't miss me. It's quite difficult to do such a thing. And the second is my email, which is Ari Sarap 26 at gmail.com.
All right. I'm going to put all that, gentlemen. I'm going to make sure all that's in the description so you guys can reach out to Ari, man. Connect with this brother. He is doing great work, great work. And you don't have to be in Israel to get with him. I'm across the world right now, and I'm with him right now. So he has ways, a calendar and everything. You can get on his calendar and connect with him. He's a great brother. Ari, thank you so much, my man, for sharing your
Thank you,
time
man.
with me
Anytime. We'll
today
do it
and
again.
with the audience. Yeah.
Yeah, this was a real gift to be here, and we've been talking it for a while, and we finally made it
Yeah.
happen.
Got it. Yeah.
And I really hope that whoever watches this podcast, that it is able to bring some awareness to their life, and just blessing every man who struggles with ADHD,
Mm.
to know that they may feel broken, but they're not
Mhm.
broken. And if something can be broken, it can be fixed.
Hmm.
Don't
I
give
love it.
up. Don't ever give up. Always fight, and find people to help bring you up. You're not supposed to go through this world alone.
Not at
You're
all.
supposed to acquire yourself a friend and someone who can help you grow. Every coach has a coach, every teacher has a teacher, you
Yep.
know,
Yep.
and if they don't learn from them.
Yep.
Like we
Agreed.
can't do this alone.
100%. Well, I got to end with the question. I have a question I ask all my guests, and we're gonna close with this.
All right.
Ari Serat, if you lost everything today, your achievements, your talents, your successes, even your failures, what's the one lesson that you want people to learn from your life?
I never gave up. I always got back up. And I'll quote my father, um, who's no longer with us in this world, right? But his lessons live on. And my father came out to me when I was in the backyard. I was so depressed. I was laying on the grass, feeling defeated, feeling like I just couldn't move forward, just feeling done. on a very extreme level, which is very common for
Mm.
men who struggle with ADHD.
Yeah.
And he came up to me and he said, I know you're feeling down right now, but eventually you're going to have to get back up. And that has stayed with me my entire life. I'm always going to get back up. It might take me some
Always.
time, but I'm always going to get back up.
My brother, masterful. Masterful. I deeply appreciate you, man. Deeply appreciate you.
Same
Thanks you
here, man.
again, man, for spending your time with me. Thank your family, man, for sharing you with me today. This is a lazy Sunday. You could be with them, hanging out with them. But thank you, man, for taking some time and hanging out with me and the good brothers on the Dear Brother podcast. Appreciate you deeply, my brother.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Talk to you soon. Well, everybody, another masterful interview with another masterful brother. I hope you guys learned a whole lot. I sure did, man. And it made me look over my life and see the things that parts of me that's like, oh man, I deal with that right there. Look, it's Dear Brother Podcast, where grown men grow even more, man. We grow, and then we go and touch the world around us, man. Thank you so much, guys, for spending time with me today. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, man. Become part of the Dear Brother Podcast. Again, where grown men keep on growing. I love you. Make sure you love you. Walk this life out with no fear, no shame, and no compromise. We end the podcast the same way. This might be your first time, might be your 300th, but repeat after me. Yesterday is history and tomorrow's a mystery. All you got is right now, what you're going to do with it, what you're going to do about it. I love you. Stand tall. Until the next time, my brother, I'm proud of you. See you soon. Peace.